Yeah, we back. Now, today we're going to be talking about the ongoing situation currently underway in Benin. As you know, a small nation on the West African coast. And of course, I definitely got love for Benin, the ancestral lands of Toussaint Louverture, the ancestral lands of Dessalines' mother. So, when it comes to me, I definitely got a certain attachment to Benin. So earlier this morning, around 4 a.m, I was up late night making videos, doing my thing. And then my phone started blowing up. My email started blowing up. The phone started blowing up. Even in my comment section, people are hitting me up. So I go search what's going on, right? Then I see the headlines. Soldiers in Benin claim they have taken control of the country in a coup. Take a look up on the screen. Soldiers in the West African country of Benin said on state television that they had ousted the nation's president and taken power in an apparent coup on Sunday. Lieutenant Colonel Tigri Pascal was named by the group, which calls itself the Military Committee for Refoundation, as the transitional leader, according to the reports. Now, of course, when it comes to me, I never jump out on day one. When it comes to situations like this, you always got to wait and see. You always got to wait and see how the situation develops. And you can't jump out on first day. You got to wait at least a couple weeks, a few months before you really can say, okay, they have taken power, right? That's when you can really say they've taken power, because unless you have everybody on board, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a counterattack, right? And you have to prepare for the counterattack. You can't just prepare for the operation where you take power and think we just going to be, chilling in power. No, you have to prepare for the counterattack that is absolutely going to come unless you have everybody on board, which is usually not the case. And that's why, going back to the brothers in the AES, when you really think about the fact that they've been able to hold on to power, not only against the several counterattacks that have came, but also the slander and the propaganda in the media. That's also another form of counterattack, and the sanctions and the border closures and the intelligence operations and all the things that have came their way, and even threats of military intervention, and they still remained in power after multiple years. And now in the modern day, they are regarded as the legitimate sovereign leaders of those nations, undisputed, uncontested. So that really goes to show that it wasn't just a fluke operation where they winged it and got lucky. And the reality of situations like these, when you undertake these operations, is that you have to be prepared to die. You have to be prepared that they might kill me, right? I might die in this operation, right? The government forces, the forces loyal to the head of state, they might launch the counterattack, and I'm definitely going to jail for sure. I'm definitely going to jail forever, but I definitely might die. You have to accept that fact. Once you accept the fact that you're going to die and you're cool with that, then at that point, you just got to take whatever comes with it because you made your final decision. That's the reality, especially when there are so many foreign interests, domestic interests at play when it comes to geopolitical situations like these. Now, when it comes to the president in Benin, when it comes to me, I'm not a fan of any head of state that is hosting French military personnel on your territory. I'm not a fan of any head of state that invites French generals to their presidential palace. I'm not the fan of any head of state that allows the French intelligence to operate bases and operational hubs inside your country, right? So when it comes to the president of Benin, got no love for him. Got no love for Patrice Talon, right? Got no love for him. Yeah, you a sophisticated black man and all that nonsense, but at the end of the day, brother, I don't respect you. And that's another thing too. When I seen that the coup d'etat was underway in Benin, the first thing I thought of was like, damn, man, you know how much French military personnel is in the country, right? The French Air Force is all over the country. They got an aircraft carrier in the harbor, the French intelligence all up in the country. I was like, damn, these guys are undertaking a crazy operation, right? Because you literally have the adversary inside the country. It's not like the adversary is all the way, in his country where it's going to take him some time to react. He's already in the country. He's already in the skies. He's already in the harbor already. So when I seen that at 4 a.m, I was like, damn, man, them boys got some balls, man. Them boys got some courage for that. Them boys real for that, but I was like, damn, I was going to sit back and wait and see before I say anything. I don't want to make a statement. We have to sit back, wait and see. That's what I always do. Sit back, relax, and see how the situation develops. Now, a couple hours after the initial announcement, we started seeing headlines coming out saying this: the authorities in Benin say that the coup attempt has failed and President Talon is safe. That came from the French media, right? And we know the French media is owned by the French government. So this came from the French intelligence. So the French intelligence started putting out headlines saying that, listen, the president is safe. Everything is all good. Everybody don't panic. French interests are still secured, right? But a few hours after that, we started seeing ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. And we know the current leader of ECOWAS is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria. And they put out a statement saying this: the Commission for the Economic Community of West African States has received with consternation reports of an attempted military takeover in the Republic of Benin. We strongly condemn this unconstitutional move that represents a subversion of the will of the people. We call for the full respect of the Constitution, and we salute the efforts of the government and the Republican Army in bringing the situation under control. We hold the leaders of the plot both individually and collectively responsible for any loss of life and property occasioned by their actions. We will support the government and the people in all forms necessary, including the deployment of the regional standby force to defend the Constitution and the territorial integrity of Benin. So the French media immediately came out, listen, everything is safe, everything is secured. But then ECOWAS made a statement saying that we are ready to deploy the regional standby force. So then I was like, wait, if everything is all good, everything is secured, why are you talking about, intervening militarily? And if you remember back in 2023, when the military took over in Niger, you saw President Tinubu of Nigeria doing similar activities. Take a look up on the screen if you remember. Nigeria's President Tinubu seeks the support of the Senate for an intervention in Niger. Tinubu is seeking the support to intervene against the ruling military in Niger, where a coup removed the democratically elected government. The West African bloc activates the standby force for a possible intervention. And you remember back during that time, I was doing the live updates, right? Every single day. I was sometimes 2 times a day, right? The 10th of August, they activated the so-called the standby force, saying that we are going into Niger guns blazing to restore democracy, right? And it was like a staring contest. Like the government in Niger called their bluff. They were like, listen, do it. I dare you. I dare you to do it. I dare you. But then you remember, like 1 week later or 2 weeks later, take a look at this headline. Niger allows military troops from Mali and Burkina Faso to enter its territory in the case of an attack. So what originally began as an attack against one government, one individual, now you had the prospect of an entire regional war, right? So now it's like, boom, if we go into Niger, now we have the governments of Mali and Burkina Faso. They said that they're also going to come into Niger guns blazing to shoot back at us, right? So now it became a whole different scenario. You're talking about an entire West African war. The Pan-Africanists on one side and the Western assimilationists on the other side. And of course, the plan was called off. Nobody ever came in. Nobody invaded. Everybody just went back to doing what they was doing, right? But could you imagine if President Tinubu actually invaded and actually removed President Chiani from power? That would mean that the French would still have the uranium mine still to this day. They would be still pillaging the uranium still to this day. They would still be paying pennies on the dollar for the uranium still to this day, right? They would still be getting money under the table still to this day, right? And the French economy might not actually be, suffering as bad as it is right now, still to this day, right? So, man, could you imagine how different things would have played out if our brothers did not come to our defense, right? Could you imagine? But President Chiani, he understood, listen, I can't stand by myself, right? Because he was sanctioned by the entire world. The entire world sanctioned him, right? Every country in the European Union sanctioned him, right? The border closures, man, it was crazy. They couldn't get medicine into the hospitals. Folks were dying in the hospitals. Listen, they really put the pressure on President Chiani. That's why I say it's one thing to take power. It's a whole different thing to actually hold on to power and maintain. They tried to break President Chiani, but by the grace of the forefathers and the ancestors and the foremothers, it didn't work. He's still standing, but man, they really tried to break him. It was elderly people in the hospitals dying because of the sanctions, bro. It was so crazy. But anyway, something else that really questioned my thoughts on the situation, because they say that the situation was under control. President Talon is safe. Everything is all good. But like we said, we saw ECOWAS coming out saying they're going to militarily intervene. And then I seen one of the leaders of the operation actually come out and make a statement saying that, calling on the French government not to intervene and things like that. So I'm saying, if these guys claim that everything is under control, then why are we getting so many conflicting messages? But anyway, I'm going to play the clip of one of the military leaders, basically telling the French government, don't intervene, right? Stay in your lane, things like that. But anyway, run a clip. I'll be right back.
I am Colonel Tigri Pascal. Since this morning, we have launched an operation to liberate the Beninese people from Patrice Talon's dictatorship and the freedoms he has long stripped away from them. We invite you to lend massive support to our action, and we call upon the French government not to interfere at all in the internal affairs of our very dear country, the People's Republic of Benin. We call upon the French government not to interfere at all. We call upon the French government not to interfere at all.
Now, like I always say, man, it's one thing to take power. It's a whole different thing to maintain power. And as the situation was developing, I seen some French journalists saying things like this. As a coup attempt unfolds this morning in Benin, a French army surveillance aircraft has been circling for over 2 hours in the skies above the capital of Cotonou. Patrice Talon's government announces that it has thwarted the coup d'etat, while the leader of the mutineers, Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri, calls on the population to support him. So we have two conflicting messages. We have the leader of the operation calling on the population for support, which is also a tactic of the AES. When the leaders in the AES came to power, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, besides the fact that they were moving as a unified bloc, they also had the support and backing of the populations. So if a foreign power wanted to militarily intervene, you were not simply going up against the military regime, you were also going up against the population that was pouring into the streets by the thousands and thousands standing behind the government. So are you going to attack all the thousands and thousands of civilians as well? So it put the opposition, the adversary, in a strange predicament. Am I going to fire on women and children and pedestrians and civilians to restore democracy? Right? So obviously, those are the two main things you got to have. You got to have some allies on deck. Before you launch any operation like this, you have to have some allies on deck. And I believe that President Chiani, before he launched his operation, he had some allies on deck before he went and did what he did. I think he already, spoke to the brothers down in Mali, spoke to the brothers in Burkina, and they was like, listen, it's a go. You got the green light. That's what I believe. I don't have any proof. I'm assuming that's what it was, because if you remember, when the French were kicked out of Mali and Burkina, where did they go? They went into Niger. That was currently under the administration of the former president, Mohamed Bazoum, right? So obviously that was a threat to the interests of Mali and Burkina. So I don't know for sure if they had any involvement in the military takeover that happened in Niger, but I'm sure they were definitely in support of the removal of President Mohamed Bazoum's administration due to the fact that he was hosting French troops right along their border. And what happened? What did the French do when they got kicked out of Niger? Where did they go? They went to Benin. They went to Benin. They got kicked out of Mali and Burkina. They went to Niger. They got kicked out of Niger. They went to Benin. Now, I've been tracking some of the flight activity, some of the aircraft activity that's been happening in Benin this morning, and there's so many aircrafts in the sky right now. That's something else you have to have under control as well. When the brothers in the AES came to power, they shut down their airspace. You have to shut down your airspace, bro. You have way too many planes in the sky. There's so many planes in the sky. And yes, the French Air Force is in the sky right above the capital. As you can see, the French Air Force, the Beach King Air 350 French surveillance aircraft in the sky in Benin right now as I'm recording, and along many other aircrafts as well, right? And take a look up on the screen. The good brother David Houdain, he said this: I have just received word that the Nigerian army formations at the Ojo barracks in Lagos are preparing to stage an illegal invasion of Benin as soon as tonight. For the second time in 3 years, the drug pusher, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, wants to start a war in West Africa. SOS to whoever still has a brain in Abuja. And as you can see, an unknown aircraft has entered Benin from Nigeria and is currently heading towards the capital of Cotonou. And as you can see, another unidentified aircraft flying from Nigeria into Benin. Seems like it's also headed towards the capital of Cotonou in Benin. Man, them boys didn't shut down the airspace. It doesn't seem like they had any, pre-positioned allies before they launched the operation. Man, it seems like them boys didn't do their proper planning, man. They didn't do their proper planning, bro. Damn, it seems like these boys winged it. It seems like they winged it, but damn. Launching a coup d'etat when the French troops are already in the harbor, that's crazy, bro. Listen, y'all got some balls for that. Just for that alone, your name's going down in history for launching a coup d'etat with French aircrafts already in the sky. Like, listen, y'all real for that. But if you notice recently, I don't know why, because Nigeria has no connection to France at all, right? But as France has begun to take geopolitical losses in Africa, for some reason, they've decided to strengthen their relationship with Nigeria, right? Nigeria, don't got no connection with the French sphere of influence. I don't even understand this relationship and why Nigeria is attaching itself to a dying empire, right? A state that is on the decline, right? A state that is on a downward trajectory. Why are you linking up with somebody that's fallen off? I don't understand it. You Nigeria. You supposed to be big man Nigeria, and you linking up with some old has-been that fell off and ain't doing nothing no more. Old washed up old bozo. You linking up with him? Currently in France right now. All the big men that pay all the taxes, they're looking at different places to live. They're trying to relocate and send their money overseas to different tax havens and relocate to different countries. Go to Dubai, go to the United States, go to Luxembourg, go somewhere else, right? The rich guys, man, they don't care about France no more, but you linking up with France and strengthening your relationship with France, somebody that is on the decline, somebody that is on a downward trajectory, a downward spiral, stop it. I don't know what kind of blackmail they got on President Tinubu. I don't understand it, bro. I don't understand it, man. But anyways, you know, the good brother David Hundean, he posted this image on his social media. Attention, Nigerian military, your lives have value. You swore to protect Nigeria and defend the sovereignty of Nigeria. You did not swear to die for nothing or to serve a white man in Paris. The neighbor is not your enemy. And something else as well, you notice how back in Guinea-Bissau, a couple of weeks ago, there was a so-called alleged military takeover in Guinea-Bissau, which I already did a video about that on the Patreon. That was fake, fraudulent, counterfeit. You know why it's fake? Because the members of the current government, the new administration, right? The military takeover, it's the same members of the previous government, right? It's because the president, it was an election. The president was going to lose the election. So all of his entourage, they organized the fake coup d'etat so they don't have to acknowledge the results of the election. So the guys that were already in power, they're still in power. They just have a different face as the figurehead. But the finance minister, all the ministers, they still in power, right? They still in power. They didn't leave. So you noticed how nobody was talking about military intervention in Guinea-Bissau because the same guys that was already in power, they still in power. So nothing has changed. Nothing has changed geopolitically. That's usually one of the main ways that I judge the authenticity of a military takeover, is how the international community reacts, right? For example, when the brothers in the AES came to power, there was an immediate reaction and condemnation when they came to power. They were talking about military intervention. They were talking about international sanctions and blacklists and all type of craziness, right? So that lets me know if a military takeover actually threatens the interests of the current social order. If the military takeover does not threaten the interests, then you will not see anybody talking about military intervention, the restoration of democracy. It'll be like in Guinea-Bissau. It'll be like in Gabon, right? You notice how the president of Gabon, who also came to power in a military takeover, he was acknowledged by the United States government. Anthony Blinken came to see him. Trump invited him to the White House. Macron just visited the country, right? Because his military takeover, he was the cousin of the previous leader. So the same family is still in power, which means the same interests are still protected. So nobody's calling for the restoration of democracy or military intervention or bloodshed or anything like that because he did not change anything. Nothing fundamentally changed. But when you actually come to power and things are fundamentally changing, right, and interests are currently being placed in jeopardy, that is when you'll see, violent and, immediate visceral reactions from the international community. And it'll be immediate reaction. They're not going to waste no time. As you can see in Benin, they're already bombing the goddamn military barracks in the capital. The good brother David Hundean, he just said this. As I'm recording it, he said this. I think Nigeria is officially over tonight. Bombing your neighbor because a white guy in Paris told you to. Carrying out airstrikes against a fellow African country because Emmanuel Macron wanted you to. Only apartheid South Africa ever did something like this. It's over. Now, early in the morning, at 6 in the morning, as the military takeover was underway, I seen Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, put out a strange tweet at 6 in the morning. He said this. I spoke with President Tinubu of Nigeria. I conveyed French solidarity in the face of the various security challenges, particularly the terrorist threat in the north. At his request, we will strengthen our partnership with the authorities and our support for the affected populations. We call on all the partners to step up their engagement. Nobody can remain a spectator. So a very random cryptic tweet at 6 in the morning while the military takeover in Benin is underway. Now keep in mind, like I told you, in Benin, the French military is already there. The French Air Force is already there. The French intelligence is already there. Like I told you, when they got kicked out of Niger, they went to Benin. So at 6 in the morning, President Macron put out a random tweet on social media. I spoke with President Tinubu of Nigeria, and now right now, the goddamn Nigerian Air Force allegedly, in collaboration with the French Air Force, is currently controlling the skies of the capital in Benin right now. So to me, like I said, I don't know. The situation is still ongoing, so we're going to see how it plays out. But it seems like this military takeover was violently put down. It seems like it was violently put down with force. And if that's the case, if that's the reality, then these guys are definitely going to jail, or they're definitely getting killed, or they're probably already dead. So we'll never know what plans they had in store, right? The same way, for example, like I said, imagine if President Chiani was removed from power. The French would still have the Iranian mines still to this day. The French would still be pillaging and pilfering still to this day, right? So we'll never know where they could have took the country, right? We'll never know if they would have kicked the French out the country. We'll never know what they could have done. We'll never know, right? We'll never know, unfortunately. But like I said, man, France, I'm telling you, France is not playing. It's not playing anymore because they've taken too many losses, bro. They've taken too many losses. We are literally chasing them all across the continent, right? Kick them out of Niger. You go to Burkina, we kick you out of there. You go to Niger, we kick you out of there. You go to Benin, now we about to kick you out of there. They said, no, stop it. I'm not running no more, right? That's the mentality of the Frenchmen. They not running no more, right? We even I reacted to a video, a clip of the former president, Francois Hollande. He said, listen, we should have never allowed the military takeover in Mali back in 2021 to take place, because that's what led to the domino effect of us getting kicked out the whole region, getting smashed in the region. So we should have never allowed that to happen. So now these guys are more proactive. They're listen, the same day the military takeover, we launching airstrikes. Listen, it's not a game. It's not a game. That's why I really salute those guys for their courage, because that was a crazy thing to do. That was a crazy thing to do, man. You launching the takeover with the French aircrafts in the sky already? Bro, you a real one. You a real one for that. But anyways, listen, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think, wow, you really disgrace yourself on a whole nother level today, brother. You really disgrace yourself on a whole nother level today. I don't know what the French have over you. I don't know what these guys have over you. Allegedly, they say back in the day, you were, involved in some illegal activity. So you might have some criminal files, under wraps. I don't really know, but it seems like, I don't know, but I really don't understand President Tinubu. I really don't understand his philosophy, his geopolitical ideology. I don't know. I don't know, bro. I really don't understand him. I really don't know. I really do not know. When you have a nation like Nigeria, you have to have somebody at the head of that nation that really has a plan and really has a vision for the nation and the region and the continent, because that nation is way too important to just be left in the hands of a bozo like this. I'm sorry. But anyways, this is all alleged. But anyway, this person said, according to local sources who provided me with images, explosives have been reported at the Tignan barracks 6 kilometers from the airport. A group of coup leaders are said to have taken refuge and barricaded themselves in these barracks, while Lieutenant Colonel Tigri, the leader of the coup, is reportedly on the run and being hunted by the authorities. Now, take a look up on the screen. This lady, I'm assuming she lives in Benin. She said this: so much misinformation is going around. Life has resumed as usual in the capital of Cotonou. I literally just ordered food at my favorite restaurant and I'm about to go for a walk at the beach. And a person responded and said, but there are confirmed reports of jets and aircrafts over the skies of the capital of Cotonou. Is it false? And then she said, yes, we heard planes roaming over a couple hours ago. So she said, listen, I'm going to the restaurant and we got the French Air Force in the sky in collaboration with their Nigerian vassals launching airstrikes on the goddamn barracks. But anyways, man, the situation is ongoing. I'll come back with some updates. Like I said, if these guys were really standing on a revolutionary business, which I believe they were because of the quick, immediate, violent reaction, then it's really a shame that one of our brothers launched airstrikes on his own brother because of that. But anyway, like I said, this is the result of the individualist black man thinking about himself and his own personal interests, right? His own personal interests. Because now I'm seeing headlines coming out saying this, right? Take a look up on the screen. Nigeria seeks French help to combat insecurity. So now we see headlines coming out as the coup d'etat is underway that Nigeria is seeking the help of the French to combat their insecurity situation, which is strange because didn't the United States already say that they were going to come in and fix the insecurity situation? They're going to come and save the Christians. Didn't the United States already say that? So for what reason would Bola Ahmed Tinubu have to go to the French for assistance? And I'll tell you why that is. It seems like the French are trying to craft the narrative. It seems like Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, woke up this morning. The French intelligence director briefed him on the ongoing situation in Benin. He reached out to President Tinubu and said, in return, right, in exchange for maybe military equipment, maybe some, brand new fighter jets, maybe some brand new equipment, for the Nigerian military or the Air Force, I need you to do me a favor, right? I need you to do me a favor and go take care of the situation that's currently underway in Benin. And in return, we're going to, bless you with all type of military equipment. We're going to open up the military arsenal, right? It's going to be amazing. It's going to be beautiful. But I need you to do me this favor, bro. I need you to do me this favor, right? They kicked me out of Mali. Fine. They threw me out of Burkina. Damn. They threw me out of Niger, and that crushed the economy. I cannot lose Benin. Benin is such a strategic location and nation, and we are so heavily embedded in the economy of Benin. I cannot afford to lose Benin. You got to do me this favor, bro, and I got you. I got you. Whatever you need, I got you. I'll give you the brand new latest generation jets and drones and everything you need. Trust me, I got you, but I need you to do me this favor. And then what happened? Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because he is a self-centered black man, only thinking about his own personal interests, those useless tribalist black men, right? So he said, bet, let's do it, right? Let's do it. And then what happened? The French intelligence briefed the French media. They put out a headline saying that Nigeria is seeking the assistance of the French to combat insecurity. That way, when the military exchange of equipment takes place, they can say that Nigeria, they asked for our help, and now we came to help the Nigerians and things like that, when in reality, it's most likely a favor for a favor, right? Go help me out. Go help me out and put down the rebellion in Benin. And in exchange, I'm going to bless you with the military technology, the military arsenal. We're going to open it up. Right? That's what it is. But they framed the narrative as Nigeria is asking for help. Why would Nigeria ask for help when the United States is already imposing itself and saying they're already coming in regardless if Nigeria wants them to come in or not? So, and plus, the French couldn't even combat the insecurity in the Sahel. You were in Mali and Burkina and all them nations for over 10 years. You couldn't do shit. You couldn't do nothing. You made no progress. But all of a sudden, you're going to come and help Nigeria, which is an even bigger country, an even bigger nation that you have no history. You have no involvement. You're not even familiar with the terrain, but somehow you're going to help them combat insecurity when you couldn't even combat insecurity in nations where you had historical ties, right? So please, you couldn't do nothing. Your track record of combating insecurity in Africa is terrible. You are a progenitor of terrorism, right? You're partially the reason why the fucking region is unstable right now, because you toppled Gaddafi and destroyed the stability of the region, and all those weapons flooded the region. So how are you going to provide stability to a region that you already destabilized? You are an agent of terrorism. You are not an agent of counterterrorism and stability. Your presence is synonymous with terrorism and insecurity, but somehow you're going to help the Nigerians where you couldn't help nobody in the fucking continent combat insecurity. You have no history of combating insecurity. You only have a history of creating insecurity, creating terrorism. You are an agent, a proliferator of terrorism, right? So stop it. You even have former French intelligence agents that wrote books talking about how they were directly involved in supporting terrorist groups on the continent. You have no credibility in the arena of combating insecurity. This is simply a favor for a favor. Go put down the rebellion in Benin alongside the French Air Force, and I'm going to bless you with the military equipment. But then the headline is Nigeria is seeking assistance from the French. Man, listen, I'm not falling for your propaganda, man. Man, listen, anyway, this video went way too long. The situation is still ongoing, so if there are any updates, I'm going to come right back. But anyway, it's your boy Neferkari Salim back in the building, yes indeed. Second single of the next project, Spy and Bamako, pin comment at the top, link in the description. Subscribe to the Patreon, NTD1814, and I'm gone. Peace.
Feel like a see me, I feel like I'm Saudi or ran up on Yana in the middle of Bamako. Enemy line, they claiming they innocent. Don't do no talking, I gotta move militant. Don't do no talking, I hit them with facts. Ace 04, bringing it back. Ace 04 like I'm Mother Cap Henry. King with the vision, the crown never empty. Top of the mountain, my soldiers defend me. Ducking and dodging the foreign intelligence. Hitting my dance on the DGSE. Dodging they traps, still on my feet. Feeling impeccable, feel like I'm shining. Go to my neck and I'm flooded with diamonds. Go to my neck and I feel like a mess. Feel like a lion, I'm in the savannah. Feel like the king when I'm up in the jungle. Never defeated, it, I never been humble. Come out victorious every encounter. Money machine, give me help when I count it. Money machine, stack it up in a beat. Heart of a king and I ride for the team. Weight of the world got it stuck on my shoulders. Bet you can feel it, my heart getting colder. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try, but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she fresh. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy try, but I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she fresh. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater.